for one thing, we actually don't remember our history. And those forgetfulness is actually really intentional. They're part of a strategy, right, that disconnects us from our history. So it disconnects us from like a sense of power and a sense of self, but also disconnects us from accountability.
For folks who are not at Park City with us this year, Vera, I was wondering if you could tell us the premise of your movie.
Rock Springs is a ghost story, and it follows a grieving family that has to move to an isolated town after the loss of someone really close and dear. And they're sort of reeling from grief and trying to adapt, but start experiencing some strange things in the woods behind their new house. So that's sort of the premise of the story, and I won't say more except that it does intersect and touch upon the real-life massacre of Chinese coal miners in Rock Springs, Wyoming in 1885.
Yeah, there are two disparate timelines here that connect. I'm curious if there was one of those that was the launching point for this story.
I knew I wanted to tell a contemporary story, but it had to be connected to history because I wanted, in part, the story to sort of make a commentary on past is present is future. So that's always been baked into it.
Yeah, going off that, the present storyline has this intergenerational family. We have a grandmother, we have a mother, we have a daughter. What made you decide to focus on women in this way with the story?
Oh, such a good question that no one's asked me. So the original sort of impetus behind the story overall, right, was this question of could I explore the felt experience of diaspora and being part of diaspora through horror? And so if that's the sort of overarching original kind of catalyst, when I built my family that I was following, it had to be intergenerational, and it also had to represent the diasporic experience. I think a lot of folks might look at Asian as a category, Asian American, Asian British, and sort of think of it as one coherent group. But in actuality, that's a sort of general category that encompasses hundreds of millions of people and hundreds of cultures and languages. So it was both intentional that I would do intergenerational because that's how I understand family. And I think that that's probably one of the common things across different Asian cultures, that family is actually intergenerational. And then I also knew that within that, it gave me the opportunity to be able to juxtapose, within one family that from the outside might be seen as Asian, actually has American-born Chinese. Kelly's character is Vietnamese, but an adoptee. Then you have, the mother-in-law who's actually an immigrant from China whose only language is Mandarin. And to be able to, and then the daughter born into this family that sort of understands everything. And to be able to have all of those layers at once. And I like telling stories about women.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah.
Kelly, I was wondering if you could talk about developing the relationship between sort of your character and the daughter, your character and the grandmother, and how that dynamic worked in the home.
Yeah, honestly, Vera cast incredible actors. We had Fiona and we had Arya, and it was just really cohesive immediately. And, I think that Vera did a really good job of creating this environment on set where we were very much able to play and get to know each other quickly and be vulnerable with each other.
Arya did teach Kelly a K-pop dance
When
they first met.
Which one?
Multiple.
Oh, nice.
And then we did perform it for Vera.
Yes, I did film it, yes.
I was terrible.
No, she was
It's
great.
the spirit that matters.
It's a spirit. Yeah.
Jimmy and Benedict, your sequences in the film are set in the past during this massacre, whose history plays a big impact on the present of the film. I'm curious if you knew about this event prior to making the film, if it was something you ever learned about.
I didn't, and I was surprised to find out that this event happened, and me having went to high school in America and everything, nobody's ever mentioned it, and no media has ever mentioned it. And when I was reading it, I still wasn't sure if this was, based on a true story, and I got emotional just from the story itself. And then finding out from Vera and then doing my own research that this actually absolutely happened, and the people's name we used were the actual people that was involved in this tragedy. It was just, it was a story that needed to be told, and I was very fortunate to be a part of this.
There's a moment in the film where one of the neighbors tells Kelly's character, like, yeah, this happened, but we're trying to move past it. Like, we're a really nice town now. Why does it feel important to keep reminding people that this is a part of our history?
Yeah, I think that it's, it's a reclamation and also a warning, particularly in this moment in time, right? So, to wake up every morning and to open the news is to know that you're about to get sort of a punishing and brutalizing experience, just being aware of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And I think that unfortunately, I started this story so many years ago. And in the course of me developing the story and into a film and getting financing and like being able to pull this incredible cast together to take a chance on this film, there was, a rise in, a resurgence of anti-Asian violence. That was back, that was like, those were the innocent days, right? And now we're obviously in the midst of an incredibly, incredibly severe, brutal anti-immigrant wave. And so to my mind, it's crucial that we reclaim our history. It's crucial that we acknowledge it so that we can learn from it rather than continually repeat it as if it's the first time.
Yeah. It's a ghost story, as you mentioned. And I guess without giving too much away, the ghost in the film, or ghost, has a really specific kind of look to it. And I was wondering if you could talk about developing that look and use or maybe of practical effects and building out that ghost.
I've been trying to say a little mum about it in terms of being able to give folks, no spoilers. But I think the film delves deeply into some Chinese, sort of beliefs about death and the afterlife, of which one of the core tenets is the notion of the hungry ghost. And the hungry ghost is the belief amongst Chinese folks and Vietnamese folks that if, once we pass, our souls go on a journey into the afterlife, and we require offerings from our still surviving family to make sure that that journey is safe, it's warm, we can get to that final destination of the afterlife. And for hungry ghosts who are either forgotten or who have died really violent deaths, and they don't have that peaceful journey to the afterlife, the idea is that they are left to be in agony forever, starving for food, starving for love, starving for attention. That's the notion of the hungry ghost. And that's the concept that really drove the ghost that appears as well as in physical form. I will say this, I took the belief system about the hungry ghost and I built off of that because for me, Rock Springs is very much a story about community. It's a story, there are individual characters who go through an arc, but there's also a family that moves through an arc. There is a community, a group of friends, and a community that move through an arc. And so the ghost in my film, this is what I will say to answer your question, it's an embodiment that the story is not just rooted to one individual.
Yeah. Benedict, last year you were in Weapons, which has had this real swell of success with award season. I think it's always great to see horror and ghost stories as a genre be sort of embraced as social films as well. And I was curious if you could speak to the ways in which horror or scary movies can really have a bigger impact beyond just sort of genre delegation.
Kind of new to horror, really, because I avoided horror from being traumatized by Hellraiser. So, and then they entered my nightmares. So, but with what the success of Weapons and how original the story was, and how it was told, was why I come on board, where it feels original, fresh, and new. And that's exactly what we have with Vera's as well. And it's so intelligently told that we're using, what really brought me forward was this event that happened, and to feel that you can, some way. I mean, the story is about ultimately like of grief and loss and honouring, the people that came before us, and as our journey is, our duty really as actors is to kind of tell this story. But I feel like we use the real names of the immigrants, and that we kind of journeyed into their lives, that they weren't just a name that has been killed, or in some cases they're just a digit, and that we humanize who that name is, and people see that story, see that journey, see that separation, see that sacrifice, leaving a family, that we are. It's a universal story that we're all connected to, about working hard that we can benefit our loved ones, you know, and you know, this idea of immigrant, and it's, you know, immigrants built America, you know, immigrants built England, you know, and if we are we are all the sons and daughters of immigrants, you know.